Oh my God, investor that invested in FarmerOn. Hello, Dave.
Hello.
So, for those who haven't been reading Netokracija and Netokratic about FarmerOn and your investment in them, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Dave McClure. I'm a blood-sucking, bloodthirsty VC, and I prey on unsuspecting startup founders.
Nice introduction. So, the question our readers are probably asking is, why in the hell did you invest into FarmerOn, and how did you find them?
Well, I invested in them because I think they're a great company. How did I find them? Initially, I found them on AngelList. I guess probably sometime earlier this year. I'm not exactly sure when, but and we exchanged a few notes. I really liked the idea of subscription model for farmers. Small business farms is a very large market around the world. And then I was basically wondering if I would, meet him at Seed Camp. He said probably, and then turns out they actually became a Seed Camp company. And so I've been going to Seed Camp every year. We actually did a partnership with Seed Camp this year. And so we made the investment and actually invited them to come over, become part of our accelerator program in Silicon Valley, which is where they're at right now.
Very cool. So, in your view, what has changed for FarmerOn since their move to Silicon Valley? Are they working more, networking more, working less, or?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to do in Silicon Valley, so it's easy to get distracted, but I will say I see them in the office pretty much every day that I'm there, and I know they're working very hard. So I think the primary things I would say is access to other investors, also a little bit closer access to some of the back-end platform folks. We just recently took all of our accelerator companies over to Facebook for kind of a visit. We're doing a similar visit to Google later this week. I won't actually be there, but the folks back in the office are doing that. And then I think, actually, strangely, he met with an angel investor who who's from Croatia, I think, which that was kind of unusual. Yeah, I think there's a lot of advantages to spending some time in the Valley. You don't always have to move there forever, but getting the chance to meet other startups, other investors, other people in the industry who are in that region is very helpful.
So what's your current stance on investing in European startups? You went to Seed Camp. From what we understand, you liked what you saw there and kept on coming.
Yeah, we've done several investments in Europe overall, probably 4 or 5 that had roots in Eastern Europe. I think we've done 3 companies out of Estonia, 1 out of Romania, FarmerOn out of Croatia. I'm not sure whether Austria counts as Eastern Europe, but we've done a company out of Austria. Probably a few others that have either teams or parts of the teams in other parts of Eastern Europe.
Do you see any difference between companies from Eastern Europe and the ones that you usually see in the States or maybe in London?
Well, I mean, usually they're a little bit more raw just because they have less, exposure to a lot of the more, traditional investing scene. From a practical standpoint, the valuations are usually lower, which, great for me, not necessarily great for them, but I think that's maybe changing. I think that a lot of those companies are starting to, have more opportunities for investors. I think those teams typically are deep on technical talent, maybe less expertise on product and marketing side, so that's sometimes an area that we try and help with a little bit, but again, I think there's some great designers and great, marketing people all over the world. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not that different, I think.
For startups that, as you said, have good technological background, lack maybe the product marketing vision, lack people that can do biz dev, what would you suggest they do while they're still in Croatia or Russia or Spain even?
Well, I mean, I think the design talent and the marketing talent can be found anywhere. So understanding the importance of those roles on startup teams and bringing them in earlier is important. Maybe for the biz dev talent, you'd probably ideally be looking for someone with connections into major markets. So that may be harder to find in smaller market opportunities. So you might be more likely to find those types of roles either in London or New York or Silicon Valley. But often you don't necessarily need those roles right away when first getting started.
You said you found FarmerOn on AngelList first. Yeah. So how did they stand out? Was it just the idea, or?
Well, definitely the idea caught my eye. I think 500 Startups tends to focus a lot on startups that have strong revenue models. So they do a lot of stuff that's e-commerce and subscription related. I'm particularly interested when I see companies kind of solving real-world problems using the web and technology. And so, the idea of helping. I grew up in West Virginia. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I knew lots of people who did, have farming backgrounds. And so solving someone's problem in, livestock management or agricultural management is, a pretty basic story. And oftentimes I think technology isn't applied in the areas where it can have the most impact. Sometimes it's applied in very, flighty and some might say less monetizable areas of social media. But in this case, it's definitely a problem that, makes a real difference, yields real dollars into people's pockets. And it's not just a problem for, folks in Croatia or in Europe. It's an issue for farmers all over the world.
Regarding that, would a startup have to focus on a global market to catch your eye, or?
No, I don't think so. In fact, we've done investments in other areas that are domestic focused. I mean, we tend to focus on larger markets when we're doing a domestic focused investment. So either like Japan, because that's a high average GDP sort of country, or Brazil or India or China, because those are large population countries. It's a little bit tougher maybe to go after a country that's got less than 50 million people with lower average GDP, but we've still done that on occasion. Yeah, so I mean, I think for us the opportunity with FarmerOn was a global picture, but there's definitely also opportunities to go after single markets as long as there's large population growth in those areas.
So while Mattia might kill me for asking this, yeah. Can you tell me what did his pitch of FarmerOn lacked at first? And I'm sure I'm going to get him to write an article about it himself, but...
I don't think there's anything that it really lacked. I mean, maybe we could polish it up here and there, but I think the basic idea was pretty clear. I think if anything, he's a very charismatic guy, and I think just letting his own personality come out more in the pitch probably is helpful, but he already does that, so. His pitch was great. There wasn't anything particularly shitty about his pitch.
Great. So what do you think, what will be most important for FarmerOn in the coming months as they work to grow their project?
I mean, I think a couple basic things. One is, raising a large amount of capital, probably at least $500,000 to $1 million, sort of is kind of the target for most of our companies coming out of the Accelerator program. Beyond just the capital side, I think establishing distribution channels for their product into key markets, understanding how they do that, what the channels of acquisition cost, and how large they can scale those. So having sort of a repeatable process for getting customers in the door. Maybe understanding a little bit about their pricing model and what optimal pricing structure looks like for them.
Cool. For those who don't have access to conferences like the web, and what would you advise in regard to gaining more knowledge on startups, design, and so on? Is it just following blogs, or?
Sure. Well, actually, we just completed our conference, Warm Gun. Actually, you can get information on that at wormgun.com. We recorded all of the sessions there, so you can also find those online. There's a bunch of great blogs and other sites around different design and usability areas. List Apart is one of those. Definitely some really amazing individual bloggers and writers on those topics as well. Same thing I think for the web and other things. They're broadcasting most of the talks here. So I actually think one of the things that's great is that because there's so many blogs and websites and recorded media that's available online, the world is a lot flatter for access to information. You might still need to go there to meet the people in person, but to get access to the information is easier than ever.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
Cool.